Hello, everyone. Happy Moon Knight finale day. Happy May the 4th to all who celebrate. And happy myself and Kim both in unfamiliar rooms today. Timing wise, it just worked out that way that we're both on little work trips right now. I'm in a hotel in Orlando. Kim, you are in a hotel in London. And we are crossing our fingers that hotel Wi-Fi is kind to us, right?
Yeah, I have been assured it's very good. So it is on them if it drops out. I'll give them a negative review.
There you go. I'm at Disney World and I'm like, come on, Disney, I'm talking about your show here. You got to deliver for this. Although I've seen people complain about this and I agree. You'd think that Disney World hotels would just have Disney Plus. Has a thing. Instead, there's like a preview channel where like all day they show shows from Disney Plus. But just give us Disney Plus. Come on.
Yeah, they want you to subscribe.
That's right. Even in the hotel, we're here. We're spending money.
Oh, it's like we'll give you a taste of it, and you'll love it so much you cannot possibly refuse.
Right. That's the hope. That's the hope. Well, all right. So let's dive into. We're going to dive into full spoilers here. So if you haven't seen the Moon Knight finale. Season finale, series finale, we don't know. But the finale of these 6 episodes, which is called Gods and Monsters, we're about to discuss it all. You're about to be spoiled on it. You still staying with us? All right. 3, 2, 1. Full spoilers for the Moon Knight finale. Kim, there was a lot going into this. We both really dug last week's episode, but at the same time, I know I was like, wow, there's kind of a lot to cover in this last episode. And it wasn't a mega-sized episode. I thought, is this going to be like an hour and 10 minutes? And it wasn't. It was like 43, 44 minutes. And that's including previously on. That's including credits. But what did you think of this finale? Did it deliver for you?
Yes, in a lot of ways it did. I think maybe it wasn't my favorite episode of the series, but it did hold some things back, some reveals which were cool. We got to see Amit in all her glory, and I thought she looked really cool and was quite scary in a way that maybe definitely the hippo is not.
Though I would have loved a giant hippo at the end there in that fight.
I know, right? Yeah, why wasn't she there? But hey, and we got what we all wanted, which was Stephen to come back, which was very cool, and a satisfying look at a character we didn't really know was going to show up or not, and that is, I say satisfying but brief, Jake Lockley.
I feel pretty good about some of our predictions last week because we both, I think, kind of settled on Jake would make an appearance in the finale, but not be center stage. And we also talked about like Layla getting more to do. I feared even that Khonshu's like, all right, I'll let you go. One day, with the idea that being like, one day maybe he'll come back. But in turning out that instead Khonshu had kind of tricked them because he said, I'll let you two go. But he always knew Jake was there, was present. And, and we got Jake, which is something that fans of the comic books have been wanting for a while, but also the show had been teasing that there was this other more violent personality who seems to be just the one who has the least morals of all. I like that quite a bit as well.
I mean, one question that I have over that is whether Jake is aware of Mark and Stephen at this point. And, if so, what he thinks of them. But I've got a feeling that perhaps he's not aware of them.
Yeah, I do wonder about that too. I don't know. I lean more towards he does know about them only because it seems like he's Khonshu's guy. Like maybe he's been the willing participant, but we'll see. Oscar Isaac got to speak Spanish.
And oh my God, everybody has been praising Oscar Isaac throughout this series for playing these 2 roles so well. And Jake has this tiny part at the end, and he transforms again, into, you can tell it's a completely different person. He even looks different. I thought he looked like, I don't know if this reference will mean anything to you, but there's a character called Harold Steptoe in a long-running, much beloved sitcom, Steptoe and Son. over here. It doesn't run anymore, but one of those old classics. And he looks exactly like him here. They were rag and bone men, him and his dad. Do you know what a rag and bone man is?
No.
Oh. They collect junk, for want of a better word, and sell it on.
I love all this. I think I mentioned to you before, I love long-running, beloved British TV shows we know nothing about here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, but I agree completely about performance-wise. Like, because in this episode, there are scenes where he is, we'll talk more about like that little sequence where we go back to Putnam briefly, but within, he is in the same shot, switching between Stephen and Mark, sometimes with special effects and the costume changing, but sometimes just Oscar Isaac changing his demeanor and extremely effectively. I'm going to mix in some AMA as we go along, because I see one here, Simon Smith saying, this episode really illustrated the limitations of Disney Plus storytelling. How will Moon Knight overcome these insurmountable odds off screen? I personally think that was a total storytelling choice. I mean, they could have shown him, it's not like anything crazy powers wise happened. It's just Lockley seems to be so tough that he beat Harrow. So I don't think this was like, we don't have the budget. I think this was, a decision that they made. I understand that that's not going to be everyone's favorite thing. But I thought it worked with, as far as there was a lot of goals to accomplish, and defeating Harrow, who was essentially the henchman at the end. It's okay for me that happened off camera. Did you feel that was like a cheat?
No, I mean it might have been, but I thought it worked so well. Throughout, we'd had those moments throughout the whole series where stuff had happened that neither Mark nor Stephen were aware of, and it made sense that this beating of Harrow happened off camera again here, and I loved it because it's great to leave stuff like that to the imagination, and presumably if we get to revisit Jake Lockley further down the line at some point, we'll see more of the kind of action that he is capable of.
Yeah, and I will also say, look, I know a frequent complaint has been not a lot of Moon Knight in the show called Moon Knight, but this episode had plenty of it. I mean, this episode had him like flying. I mean, I thought that was really cool when they kind of cut to him. We already had seen him take off, but just hurtling towards that pyramid. And I thought, while it was, not an extensive part of the episode, there was some really cool stuff here, especially with the switching back and forth between Mr. Knight and Moon Knight. And there's like one part where Mr. Knight throws a baton at Harrow, who blocks it with his cane, and it deflects off a building, and Moon Knight catches it. And that was really cool,
And there's that bit where Harrow kicks Mr. Knight through a doorway, and then Moon Knight comes back in with a grappling hook and a flying kick, which was cool. And the whole
very Batman, a character that has often, had some surface similarities. I thought that was great.
And the fight in the sky, when we talked in an earlier episode about the cape and Harrow or it being used against Moon Knight, and again that happens here where Harrow has got him and he's kind of strangling him, restraining him, and then he switches to Mr. Knight, and the cape, of course, is gone. So yeah. And then he switches back again because he's falling.
That's right. Yeah, I thought that was all great. And yeah, I didn't think that there was like a budget issue here. Just that's what they just do. Look, I do not think any of us would have expected of this show to end with a giant kaiju battle of the Egyptian gods. I welcomed it. Giant crocodile versus giant bird.
What more could you want?
What more could you want?
Beating the dust out of one another, these dusty old Egyptian gods.
That's right. I also like that Khonshu, these gods are such braggarts. I like when he's like, I am still the god of the night sky, before he makes him fly through there. Let's talk about, first of all, we'll get to Layla, but let's talk about Harrow. I will say, it was weird to me, the very last, again, the cutting to credits, I thought was kind of strange, because when they give up being Moon Knight, they ask Khonshu to undo it, but then we go back to Putnam, and that was strange to me, what exactly those last few moments, like going back to Putnam, then he goes back to his loft, and we see that they're still chained to the bed, which could be an inkling of the Jake thing, but what did you think of these kind of last two scenes here?
Yeah, it was It was interesting, and actually it was called the Sienkiewicz.
Yes.
Like yes.
A little shout out to a wonderful Marvel artist in the where Harrow actually is at the very end. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if I knew exactly what to make of that. I'm still unpacking it, but with the what comes after, I forgot what were we what were we talking about, Eric?
Oh, just the at the end, like they give up being Moon Knight, but then we cut to Harrow and Mark / Steven in Putnam, which was part of like Duat, the afterlife.
Yeah.
What did you make of, like, was that, like, just representational? Like, why did that even happen?
I mean, I think I read it that way, but I think I read it that way, and that was Mark then deciding that he's going to embrace life and helping the world. I did read it kind of metaphorically. Did you?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I guess it's just, look, these are the questions, I guess, saved for a potential season 2, because as you say, they say we'd rather go save the world, but they've stopped being, as far as they know, they're not Moon Knight anymore. So it's like, how will that happen? Like, what do they see? Again, I think the mid-credit scene helps a lot, because it's like we get this better inkling that there's a lot more going on still.
Yeah,
but those last couple scenes are a little strange to me.
and this chaining to the bed, that's what I was going to talk about. That was like, well, who did that? Which persona would have done that? Because if Jake did it, then it would suggest he doesn't know about Stephen and Mark. I would have thought.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a big question, is like, who knows about who? They don't seem to have any inkling about Jake's existence, so why would either of them do it? Yeah, it's
yeah, or is there another persona at play? There has been talk throughout this series of multiple personas, and of course, that if they were to create some more, it gives them a lot of exciting ways to take the character, doesn't it? So
right. I was going to joke that maybe Layla did it for completely different reasons, but we don't know where Layla is at the end.
Oh, he did say in the first series about a red flag, didn't he, with his chains on the bed.
Right. We're not really sure where Layla is at that moment, so we'll find out about that. Let's go back. Let's talk about Layla, because obviously big things happen for her here. I felt this was a good payoff on. They kept talking about the possibility of her becoming Khonshu's avatar, which I think we agreed would be very strange to have a passing of the torch in a show that's an introduction to a character. But it paid off with her becoming a different avatar. Marvel has basically confirmed that she is a version of the Scarlet Scarab, who was a male character, but an Egyptian superhero in the comics, and that Layla is kind of an original character mixed with the Scarlet Scarab concept. What do you think of everything that happened here for Layla?
Really cool. Yeah, we talked a little bit about her maybe being the Scarlet Scarab, and yeah, I love this bit where they decide to show off their skill sets to one another. That whole sequence was so cool, and her swords. I noticed one of the strengths of this series has been the symbolism that I've talked a lot about, and the foreshadowing. And in the fight, this reminded me of the fight that she had with Beck at Mogart's in the what we call the Louvre, and she her necklace with the 2 blades, and she stabbed it in Beck's clavicle, and I thought that was, thinking about it, foreshadowing of her 2 blades here with her costume.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's like the Scarab itself was a thing throughout the show. There was a lot of sort of lead up to it. The only thing that's funny to me is that Tarouet is a hippo. Now I don't think there's a way to make a cool hippo superhero costume, as much as I love that hippo.
Yeah.
But I did, I'm like, maybe if we could examine that costume closely, they put some little hippo imagery on it, because the wings were not a flying hippo.
No, good point. I don't know, a little curly tail. Do hippos have little curly tails?
I think so. Let's say they do. But
Yeah.
she looked great. It was really cool. Look, am I a grump who will deny how great it was with the little girl saying, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" and her saying, "I am." I mean,
Well,
that
this is another question now, because she kept saying in this episode, or said a couple of times, that she would only be a temporary avatar.
right.
So if that's the case, does that mean she would give up the Scarlet Scarab, especially now, she's got the expectations of a young girl and others presumably on her shoulders. So yeah,
Right. You think she'd want to? I mean, look, I think we know that she's gonna. I have no doubt she'll be back in Scarab. I do think that is why maybe I feel like I do wish there was like maybe one or two more scenes here at the end.
yeah,
Maybe a little better establishing what they go for this trippiness with Putnam, but I would have liked to have gotten a better idea of like what is Jake? I'm sorry, not Jake. What is Mark and Steven's next step? How do they want to sort of help the world without being Moon Knight? What is she up to? I realize these are all questions for the future, but I think it would have been nice to have a little bit, given to us here in the final scenes.
yeah. Although I quite liked the finality of it, because we don't yet know if there's going to be more. And while it leaves the door open, it also closes this chapter, and I think it does that really well.
It does. I think it does. Look, like they stayed true to themselves here at the end, especially being self-contained. If there was ever going to be a point where a familiar character from the MCU came in, you figured it would be that mid-credit scene. They didn't. Instead, it was still all about the story we saw. And while it confirmed this third personality, Harrow was killed. So it's like that villain and Amit presumably with him.
Yeah.
So it does end this story. It does feel like a true miniseries with room for a sequel miniseries. In a way that some of the others haven't, that are much more like, and here's the next step, here's it was funny to me. Well, first of all, I will say that I very much enjoyed when Tarawet possesses Layla first, and she is speaking has her and having back and forth there. That was very funny. It was a little confused. I mean, not confusing. It's a little funny to follow. There's this episode, they said the word Avatar a lot in this episode. You'd think we were watching Airbender or the movie Avatar in this. But it was funny that I think it's a little murky what exactly being an Avatar gets you, because all those people in the temple were avatars, right? But they didn't ever show like overt powers. They just got killed easily. And then Tarawet talks through Layla at one point, but then you become an avatar and she just has this cool super persona. And then it was funny that to like defeat Amit, she had already made Harrow her avatar. He had powers, he could fight Moon Knight, but then to defeat him, they put her fully in him. So it was a little funny, the kind of layers of avatarism I felt.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing. And we can see Khonshu often, and we didn't see Tarawet at all when she was in possession of Layla.
Right. But yeah, I think you go with it. It's the gods, right? They do as they want to.
They got powers.
They got powers. Simon Smith has a follow-up saying he wasn't referring to the budget, but to the violence. I don't know. I mean, it's not like those people were like, torn in two. Again, I think they could have shown, but I think they didn't want. I mean, I think they wanted to save Jake's physical on-screen here he is for that post-credit scene. I think it would have been actually kind of weird if we saw, and let's face it, also, does Jake have his own different costume? They haven't made that decision yet. So
yes.
I feel like they have besides his cool, driver's cap, of course.
His Harold Steptoe cap.
What do you think? So we got Moon Knight with the mummy look and the cape, and Mr. Knight with the nice suit. What is Jake's manifestation here? What's his all white costume?
Something it's gonna have cars all over it, but very subtle ones. Much like Layla should have hippos on her costume.
There you go.
I don't know, car imagery.
Maybe he has a white version of that cap,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would make sense.
we'd mentioned before that Jake in the comic books was traditionally a taxi driver. They'd done some clear nods with taxis prominently, and he would wear like he was like the version of like a 1970s cabbie wearing that cap. So I liked how they turned it into a they managed to get it in there.
Smart limo. Where does he keep that limo?
Right, straight out of the comics with the Spectre license plate there.
Yes.
Like this funny. This episode, it was fairly, I say it was busy, but it was focused because it was the final battle one. Anything leap out to you? Other things in this episode of note?
Well, one of the things that has been niggling me since Harrow was able to manipulate the gods so easily was that, in fact, considering these gods are supposed to be good judges of character, they were completely blindsided by Harrow. And then in this episode, they're like, oh no, he's freed Harmit. Oh, and then also the fact that the bound gods were actually really easy to free. You just broke their little figurines.
Right. Yeah, it was. I think we joked about the gods being incredibly just saps in the earlier episode where Harrow convinces them all, I'm a cool dude, everything's fine. Yeah, you felt like maybe they should have had a little more, because they did realize, like, oh, it's Harrow. It's like, guess we should have listened to Khonshu there. I think that they could have maybe fleshing in God sounds funny. But fleshed in, and it was actually weird, and maybe it was even just a casting availability thing, but it was funny that I can't remember which god she was, but the one that had been the most sympathetic to Mark and Steven is not the one that has like the final words with Layla. It's that other dude, which I just thought was funny, like interesting choice there. For the death thing. There were some things at the beginning I thought were, I don't know, a little rushed maybe. Layla, sneaking into like Harrow's group. I'm like, how does that work exactly? I know he's like, kind of. It's a little bit vague how much they feel like possessed or not. But it did seem funny that she could just jump on that. We didn't see that happen. I'll complain about that happening off screen. She got on that truck off screen, and I was just wanting someone to be like, "Who's the new girl?"
Yeah, that did feel odd, didn't it? And there were a couple of shots where I thought, oh, he's seen her, and she hasn't got her face covered, so, and he's, he knows who she is.
Yeah.
But nothing came of that.
Great time. I laughed at the corpse yelling at Layla, I am the goddess Terroret. There was some very funny stuff. I thought it was really funny when she screams Layla, like she basically gives her hiding place away. Because Terroret, I guess, she's a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
But she's just so good natured. How can you not like her?
I know, bless her.
I will say what worked. I really liked sort of the big bold things they did here with the characters and Mark and Steven and them, really merging together. Because I will say some of the mystical stuff felt a little like they were, jumping through it a little quickly. Like even Mark and Steven, like the way that Steven was brought back and now they can return home felt a little strange after what we heard last week. It was like, okay, you made it to the Field of Reeds, but now Mark decides to go back and he gets to Steven, and then it's like, okay, now them just having this moment and the gates open. I was like, felt like that could have happened last week, but
yes, it could have done. But I did. I predicted last week that we would see Osiris, but we didn't. But we did get Tar Weret calling him a big softie.
We did, and we got a very funny moment a fun moment where she kind of saves them with the boat, and I did laugh very loudly at Steven yelling "Hippo!" Very excited reaction to that. Let's see here. Let's jump into some other comments here. Chad WC Michael, I have a feeling Jake Lockley is this is kind of saying similar to what Simon was saying. I have a feeling Jake Lockley is a hard R character. No real way to make that work on screen on a PG-13 show. I'm always like, is he? I mean, he's, they look, we were talking right before we started filming about when John Walker killed that guy on Falcon Winter Soldier with the shield, and that was brutal. It's like we didn't see horrific tearing apart, but we got what was happening. What do you think? Is there limitations on what they can show with Jake here, or can he fit into this realm?
Yeah, I mean, I do think he can fit in, and I think that they've been paving the way for a while for some of these more violent or problematic characters to come into the Disney fold. There's the matter of Deadpool at some point, and Wolverine, and the like, and it feels to me like this is another show that has been trying to introduce this idea of brutality a bit more. To be a bit more hard-hitting in order for that to happen. So maybe we will get a fairly brutal Jake Lockley. And there were parts of this series that were quite savage, I think.
Yeah. And look, I will not, no spoilers for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness here, a movie, Kim, that I know from Twitter you were not a fan of, but it does it pushes the PG-13 about as far as it can go, and especially for an MCU movie, it definitely gets a little more intense and shows some stuff that is you would not find in your average Avengers movie. So I think they're playing around there. They're willing to see how far they can take it. Zeno Hour says, just a statement here. Khonshu is a villain. I mean, I definitely think, in the show, it's like Amit is clearly a villain because she just wants to kill all these people saying, I think one day they're going to do something bad. But Khonshu, he's not great, right?
Yeah, I mean, he still kills people if they've done something that he deems to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was going to say that it's funny. Another issue I had that was helped by the mid credit was it's a very cliche. It's hard to do it in a new way, which is I could kill the villain, but I choose not to. We just seen it a million times. So it was like, all right, this is their version of that. But I actually felt that then finding out that Khonshu had this ace in the hole of Jake Lockley, it sold that better,
Yeah, there was that moment between where Layla says as well, she's really upset and says about how he, ruined Mark's life. We still don't know for sure whether Mark was chosen by Khonshu because of his condition or the possession caused his condition. So either way, it's pretty villainous.
Yeah. And then, I mean, he also specifically even says, I never wanted Layla because I had Jake, again, that, that it does really cement that Khonshu's been manipulative here, because not just in the ways that Mark was aware of, but in ways that he wasn't, because he had access to this other personality that Mark was not even aware existed. Let's see. Brent Draher says the conversation in the temple between her and Tarawet, Kalama Way played that great. I would agree. She didn't. Her character was much more obviously straightforward than Mark and Steven. But I think that just the physicality, because Tarawet is so blissful. I thought she played that really well with her expressions. Would you like seeing her get to be a little more clownish there?
I did, and get some kudos for her acting as well, because she's been great all along, and both she and Ethan Hawke have been a little bit overshadowed by everyone talking about Oscar Isaac, but they've all been absolutely brilliant.
Yep. And then I'll read these together because it's pivoting off something we were talking about earlier. Zeno Hour says this did feel more like a season finale than a series finale, while May Kabir says I liked that it was sort of open-ended but closed this chapter. I mean, that's where that's where I do feel like it feels like a proper finale, but not, clearly not and we shall never deal with these characters again. But it does allow for either, I think. It allows certainly for the idea that Jake Lockley is out there still being, if not the Moon Knight, whatever his name is. But also, if for some reason, I think they'll get Oscar Isaac to sign for more. But if they didn't, it felt like this was like a cool story in its own way. They had to thread the needle a little bit here, but I think they mostly pulled that off.
Yes, I do. I do think that. I was just thinking about goldfish then, Eric, because there were the two goldfish at the end, and I was thinking, oh, when did they go out and buy another goldfish, and why did they do it? Did they do it because they're like, well, you can have one and I can have one, and if they find out about Jake, will they get a third one?
Only if they're cool with Jake, and it feels like it might take a while to get cool with Jake. So. Bruins fan 1144 mentions just something saying they changed tweets from series finale to season finale. This is true. The official Twitter had initially posted a little like preview for the finale saying in the series finale, they changed it to season finale. I don't think we should read anything more into that except they don't know. It was probably a script for the beginning to say series finale, because they just were like, hey, we'll figure this out. Let's see. Why does every establishes Cliffacook? I like your name there, Cliffacook. Why does every established MCU character on a Disney Plus program need to have an underling? Oh, this is not even a question about Moon Knight, Cliffacook, but I've gone too far. We'll answer it. Established character, which this one did not have an underling that does all the important, difficult work for them. I don't know if I go with your thesis here, because your examples are Loki and Sylvie and Hawkeye and Seinfeld. I would feel neither of them qualify as underlings. Certainly Sylvie was not Loki's underling. But there is something worth talking here about how there's a duality and other selves has been a recurrent theme. Both the versions of Hawkeye, Loki and Sylvie, Vision had two visions, and Wanda too. There was a lot of versions, and of course Moon Knight. So does this seem like something that's in the brain at Marvel Studios, Kim?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think for the last X number of years, we've in general been talking a lot about mental health, and it makes sense that this filters through into pop culture, and they're dealing with it a lot here about identity. And everything that goes with that. And so, whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously, it makes sense to me that it's happening. And teamwork is important. Teamwork has always been important in all of these series. And this idea of found family, family comes in whatever form it takes, whatever you choose to call your family. And I think that's part of it too.
I agree with all of that. And we've spoken also about how the movies by their nature only have so much time for the feeling stuff, like Wanda and Vision being the best example, where it was like in those Avengers movies, they would get like one scene to be like, here's their relationship. And then everything else had to be like, and here's the big threat that everyone has to deal with. These shows have the benefit of, we can spend more time on the relationships, but we can also spend more time examining the inner lives of these characters and what makes them tick. And I think it might be an obvious route to go, but comic books and the idea that there's multiple yous can take many forms. It allows them to do, what if Loki is, of course, what if you fell in love with a version of yourself? And Moon Knight is, that you're split down the middle and you have this sort of brother within you. And Hawkeye is a protege. I think it all works at different levels, and it does make sense that because they have more time with these shows, they're like, yeah, we can do these, get into the nitty gritty of these characters. I like that.
Yes.
I think I'll end here on Brent Drahir, a statement that but we can share our thoughts on. Suited Khonshu in the end scene was so good looking, total Kingpin vibes.
Yeah, he still was a bit Scully for me, But yeah, nice threads, very, very sharp.
I will say two things. One is that he did look sharp in the suit. I saw someone make a joke on Twitter. I wish I remember who, that Khonshu on the way to the Met Gala. But I actually thought there was a very funny line in this episode was when Amit sees Khonshu and says, "Khonshu, time has been cruel to you." And we kind of get the idea that he looks like crap to the other gods, like he hasn't aged well. And I thought that was very funny.
It was funny. It was
like, I want to see young, handsome Khonshu now, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
perhaps
Khonshu.
that's why he spruced himself up for the end. He did not like that comment.
Ooh, I think you're right. I think we've gotten into that hit deeper than Khonshu wanted to let on. All right, guys, that brings to close our Moon Knight conversations for now. I say for now because I think we're going to see Moon Knight one way or the other again. Thank you for joining us for these 6 episodes. But don't worry, there's plenty more to talk about in pop culture. There's plenty more to talk about in Disney Plus. Keep giving us big shows. There's a trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi out there right now you should check out. You know what, Ryan? I'm going to throw this at you in the middle of this. If you don't, it's okay. We never talked about the junket again. If you don't have it ready, it's fine.
Oh yeah,
don't worry about it.
That's an on-air mess up from your boy O'Toole.
No. There was a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. I just realized it in the moment. So never mind. I'm not thrown to nothing. We're just gonna wrap up here. Kim, thank you for joining me from your hotel and from my hotel. For all you know, guys, everyone else is Ryan, William. Everyone's at a hotel now. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.